37,800 special education teaching jobs open every year. Not one of them is new. Employment in the field is projected to shrink, so every one of those openings is a replacement. If that's you this August, here's what orientation skips. One federal date on every student you inherit isn't something federal law requires the plan to carry. Carry that one with you.
Already in force. Why does that land so hard in August? I am Erica, and it is the timing. Those plans are legally live the morning you walk in before you have read a page of them.
We spent 5 episodes inside that document, what the regulation makes you put in it, how present levels carries everything downstream, how the goals get built off that, where accommodations stop and modifications start, and why a 504 is a different law entirely. And today is finally about the person who has to hold all of it by Friday.
Lewis here. We already ran this experiment. 300.323 paragraph A. At the beginning of each school year, the plan is already in effect. That's the ambush.
The trap is on you before you know it exists. 3 weeks of teaching a plan you have not read, and every one of those days you were already responsible for delivering it.
Okay, but what does a person actually do with that? It's Tuesday. She's got a caseload on her desk and bus duty at 3.
Dates first, not goals. Dates.
Dates first sounds cold until, no, it does sound cold. It's also what buys you the rest. Every date you find in week 1 is a meeting that doesn't ambush you in week 6. The goals and the personalities you learn while you're already standing.
Nobody is born knowing the order. I read my first caseload alphabetically, which is exactly as useful as it sounds.
Alphabetical at least has an order. The harder question is the one every new teacher actually asks on day 2. Which file do I open first, and what am I looking for?
Order, whole video, one word. It starts on a shelf you probably haven't opened yet. It runs through a clock that might not be the one you think, and it ends at a table with 7 seats. Real quick, because this next part matters to you. If any of this is helping, tap that like button, then hit subscribe and ring the bell so the next one finds you. Both are free and take about a second, but they tell the algorithm to show this to one more person who needs it. Two files per student, not one. Professor Raman is at the desk with us today to help with this part.
2, and most people open the wrong one first. The IEP says what to deliver. The eligibility file carries what it leaves out, the date.
Annual review first, Cynthia. Not less than annually. That's the phrase.
Not less than annually is doing real work there. A ceiling on how long a team can wait, not a preference. The safest date to build around, safest if the last teacher held the meeting.
Week 1 starts at a drawer, not a desk. Different folder, sometimes a different cabinet, sometimes a different building. Let's put the week on the board in order. Eligibility file, reevaluation date, annual review date, services and who delivers them. Then the names.
At least once every 3 years, unless the parent and the agency agree it isn't necessary. Reevaluation, and it sits outside the IEP entirely.
Read me the actual line. I restore fountain pens for fun, Erica. I like the exact words.
300.303, paragraph B2. Quote, must occur at least once every 3 years, unless the parent and the public agency agree it's unnecessary. And here's the ruling. That date is nowhere in the 7 required parts of an IEP. The part that keeps me up is quieter. A student can have a current plan in your hand and a reevaluation 8 months overdue, and the page says nothing. Why is it even called a reevaluation? Half the time the team just looks at what it has and decides that's enough.
Yeah, regulation allows it. Review of existing data since about 2004-2006 for these rules exactly.
Anyway, 3 years. Write it on your page in your own handwriting.
1 page per student, 3 dates, the services, who delivers each. That page is the only thing you'll use in October.
Who's on the hook if it lapsed before she got there?
Honestly, I'd have to check how that's handled where you are. Here's the one I do want answered. If the last teacher missed that date before you arrived, does the clock reset?
It doesn't. 3 years runs from the last evaluation flat. Where it gets murky is one place, whether your state counts from the report date or the eligibility meeting.
Doesn't move it. Meaning on day 1, I can already be standing on on somebody else's overdue date.
You can. Finding it in week 1 is the difference between a correction and a complaint.
Before we leave the shelf, look at what this part of the job actually looks like.
One more number, a different 30 days from the one in the title. Once a team determines a child needs special education, the meeting to write the plan happens within 30 days.
One sentence in these rules turns your questions into the district's job instead of a favor. We'll come back to it.
3 years, 30 days.
Neither waits for you to be ready. 3 years, 30 days, and a drawer you haven't opened. Lewis, you've watched this go sideways more than once. A parent signs a consent form for an evaluation. What starts?
A clock, 60 days, and it isn't yours.
60 days from the day the district receives parental consent. Initial evaluation section, 301. Calendar days, not school days. A parent signs on the 15th of September. The evaluation is finished calendar day 60, and that doesn't pause for winter break or for...
True, 60 isn't every state's number. We've been here before. The regulation offers a second option. If a state sets its own time frame, that time frame governs, not on top of 60, instead of it.
I had it filed as a floor. It is not, and Lewis is right, I was wrong about the shape of it. The text says within 60 days of receiving parental consent, or, if the state establishes a time frame, within that time frame. Call it the swap, because that's what happens. Your state's number swaps in for 60. The only honest answer about your clock is whatever your state wrote down.
Let me run it twice. A teacher in a state that never wrote a forget the states, start here. Wrote nothing, it's 60 days from consent. Wrote something, that's your number.
60 days, or your state's swap.
One more out loud so nobody repeats my year of it. My clock starts when I refer the no, wrong. It starts when the district receives signed consent.
How many school days is that?
Okay, the question has to change first. It isn't school days. The definition section point 11 says a day means a calendar day unless a rule says business day or school day, and this one doesn't. Winter break counts. Snow week counts.
Calendar days in a building that closes for 2 weeks in December. That's the trap.
Let's put one on the calendar. Say a parent signs on the 15th of September. Under the federal default, the evaluation is due the 14th of November, and there's no December in that window, which is the only reason it looks easy.
Now put a state time frame under it. Same signature, different due date.
Look at the regulation, because the two options sit right next to each other on the page. Within 60 days of receiving parental consent, or if the state establishes a time frame, within that time frame. Paragraph D lists 2 exceptions and no others, both narrow. A parent who repeatedly fails or refuses to produce the child. And a transfer in the middle of...
Wait, that happens every October.
A transfer in the middle of an evaluation, before the first district finished deciding, and it only holds if the new district is making sufficient progress and the parent and the new district agree on a specific completion date. 2 conditions. Miss one and the clock never stopped.
Agree. There it is again. Every hard thing here is people in a room agreeing on a date. Wait until you count who has to be in that room. Seven entries. Professor Rahman is back with us for this part. Who has to be in that room and who only might be?
Parents. A regular education teacher if the child is or may be in the regular environment. A special education teacher.
An agency representative, someone who can interpret evaluation results. 5 so far, and then
6 and 7?
6 and 7 are the conditional pair, Lewis. Not the same kind of entry as the first 5.
6 is discretionary, anyone the parent or agency brings for knowledge or expertise. 7 is the student, whenever appropriate. Who decides whenever appropriate.
5 of the 7 entries have to be filled, which is not the same as 5 bodies then.
Unless the parent and the district agree in writing to excuse one, and that only works when that member's area isn't being discussed. Written agreement, not a hallway nod.
That's the door. Narrower than people think.
Look at the list on the page. It runs 1 through 7, and your name is number 3.
7 seats. Lewis has sat in worse rooms with fewer people and more damage.
I have. The pen survived. The plan didn't.
Okay, that was good. 7 entries on the list. 5 have to be there.
The one people forget is number 2. A general education teacher isn't optional if the child is in that room.
That sentence I said we'd come back to, this is it.
300.323, paragraph D, check the letter I, second guess it. The duty is not in doubt. The district must make the plan accessible to you and inform you.
Informed meaning somebody emails you the plan.
Not quite. Informed of 2 things, what you're responsible for and the exact supports you have to deliver. Handing you the file isn't that.
Fair. Then the ask is simple. Well, simple if somebody owns it. Who tells me what I'm responsible for?
Meanwhile, the 30-day clock is already running on the new...
From the referral, right? 30 days from the referral.
No, from the determination that the child needs special education.
Real gap, too. Referral to determination can run weeks.
Weeks, roughly. 60 days, exactly, if consent is where you start. Prep list is Cynthia's lane. I'd get the order wrong.
3 things. The dates you wrote down, the services, and who delivers them. 1 question you actually need answered. If you're half listening to this on a prep period, keep that last one. Bring 1 question.
The one nobody rehearses is this. What do I say when I don't know the answer in the meeting?
I can't tell you what your team will accept, not without sitting in it, but the pattern holds. Say you don't know and say when you'll have it. A date, not a promise.
Professor Rahman, thank you. I wish somebody had handed me that answer.
Seconded. Worth writing on your hand.
1 caution. Whatever date you give in that room, put it on your own calendar before you leave it.
That date I promised up top is still out there. It goes wrong in silence, and by the time anybody notices,
The reevaluation date. That's the one that isn't in the plan.
Cynthia held that back in the first minute. The 7 required parts we walked in episode 1 don't include it. It lives in the eligibility file, small version, that. Stack a transfer student on top, and you inherit a clock that started somewhere you've never heard of.
Lewis asks who's on the hook if it lapsed before you arrived. That duty sits on the public agency, not on you. The finding still lands on the district. The fix lands on...
Sorry, what does the fix actually look like?
A reevaluation scheduled late with a written explanation. Survivable, just loud.
Yeah, same section says a teacher can request one. Don't wait to be told.
Take a composite, 2nd week of September. First job, file open on the floor. The report on top is 3 years and 4 months old.
4 months over.
Nobody missed it, exactly. 3 people each assumed one of the other 2 had it.
Every building I've ever worked in.
She put it on a sticky note and walked it to the office before lunch. 11 minutes.
11 minutes in week 2 instead of a finding in March or a year later. Dates first, in one story.
I'd do it the other way round. Dates first means knowing the paperwork before you know the children.
Real costs, and I won't pretend otherwise. You meet 12 files before you meet 12 kids.
Here's what I'd actually do. Dates first, children second. A missed date you can't repair. A child you met Thursday instead of Monday you still met.
Now the other half, because a video that ends at get organized is lying.
For the 2024-25 school year, 74% of elementary and middle schools with a special education vacancy reported difficulty filling it with a fully certified teacher.
In March, a North Dakota union survey of more than 150 special education staff found 86% overwhelmed, 44% weighing leaving. 1 state, 1 union.
The paperwork is the smallest part of it.
Can I put this somewhere else? A toll plaza at rush hour. Your caseload is the cars, certified staff, the booths. The toll is the paperwork each car owes. Nobody blames booth 3 for
the line. Okay, but does the booth not matter at all? One catch, you can't close a lane. The cars arrive whether a second booth opens or not, and they're children.
Right. Literally, organizing changes which deadlines slip. It does not change how many students you were given. Only one of those is yours.
The forms multiply, the booths don't.
To borrow Erica's word, the swap is what I'd look up tonight. Your state's number in your handwriting.
Bring a pen that outlasts the plan.
I've got last year's page here. 3 pen colors and a coffee ring. It worked.
The page is the whole system.
If you only hold one thing, hold the page. I lay it out like that PTA newsletter I took over temporarily 2 years ago. 1 column per student.
2 tonight. Your state's evaluation timeframe and the reevaluation date on every student. Dates are the part of this job you can finish. Children are the part you keep starting.
If this took 30 days of panic off your plate, like and subscribe. Episode 8 turns that page into a system that survives 28 cases. 1 question back and it takes 10 minutes. What is your state's evaluation time frame? The number that replaced 60. Nobody is born knowing this. 30 days from now, the page does the remembering for you. Take care of yourself in September.